Could I also, before you move on, the owl seems to be just focused at you, Supervisor Hewitt. Is there a way to make that work?
Just while she's doing that, can I mention anyone who's come in since the meeting started, can you make sure you sign in, please? There's a sheet up on the podium. Thank you.
I'll work on getting the owl changing around. Does anybody else have any other public comments? Okay, and so we're starting with the public here.
I just want to let you know, someone said that when the owl is not turning, they can't hear the people's public comments. I was just letting you know.
Okay, well, I'm trying to get that.
I have a public comment.
Okay, Mr. DeCanto.
Hi, John DeCanto. I'm a member of the Lisle Township Community Mental Health Board and also the treasurer. The short time I've been a board member, I've been quite honored to serve just over a year now, and it's been quite a humbling experience. And Supervisor Hewitt, I would just like to thank you very much for your commitment and dedication to the board, because without you, this would not be possible. And thank you to the trustees and the board for their subsequent confirmation of the appointments. Our 9-member board has been working diligently the last 12 months to form our new board, and we're making incredible progress on our way to disperse approximately $850,000 to organizations that will serve Lisle Township residents. And I would just like to speak briefly about agenda item number 20 regarding the bank accounts. I feel like if the Community Mental Health Board had its own bank account, we could streamline some accounting transparency and also increase the speed at which we can disperse funds to these organizations. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and just the owl is going again. Is there any other in-person public comments? Okay, Mr. Young.
At last month's meeting, Supervisor, I asked you for several reasons to resign. That included a vote of no confidence passed at the August 2023 meeting. The financial mismanagement, including allowing a general assistance fund to become insolvent, incurring over $250,000 in accounting and legal fees since April 1st, 2022, and chasing away all full-time staff that were here when you took over. Even the bookkeeper who ran with you as a trustee resigned at the beginning of the year due to the hostile work environment you created. You continue to add reasons why I asked for your resignation. You pled guilty.
Please pause 1 second. Supervisor Hewitt, the audience is disrupted. We cannot have silence in the room, then we have to ask them to excuse themselves. You're going to take order?
I didn't hear any disruption. So, okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Highway Commissioner Young, keep going.
You pled guilty to a DUI.
Point of order.
No, members of the public don't make voices.
Sorry, that can't happen.
You continue to add the reasons why I asked for your resignation. You pled guilty to DUI you were cited for November 1st, 2023. As part of your sentence, you must not test positive for drug use, including marijuana, for the next 24 months. This is something you were not able to accomplish during your short time on probation for your first court appearance for the first of this week. The mail carrier food drive is not dropping off food donations at the food pantry this week. Because the food pantry wasn't open last year. In prior years, volunteers were there to accept the donations and offer the mail carriers a drink and a snack as thanks for their efforts to supply food to the food pantry. That all didn't occur this year because you didn't have the food pantry open last year. On April 13th, you hosted a recycling and shredding day. Due to the oversight, a shredding truck was not on site that day. Your oversight. Consequently, the residents' material that was dropped off to be shredded wasn't shredded for over a week. Just more incompetence to add to the list. Yet for all the embarrassment you have brought to Lisle Township, its residents, its elected officials, townships, officials throughout the state, there is not one indication from you of regret. No ownership of any of your actions for your DUI or in the township operations. For all of these reasons, I ask for your resignation. Thank you.
Any other public comment in person? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Sharon Furry from Lisle. I'm speaking still for the trees. I was very dismayed at the small bit that was in the flyer that received by the commissioner. I have personally talked to the Village of Lisle forester. And I know that your office did contact him. I'm sorry, I don't have his name, his card with me. Giving you suggestions. There's a discrepancy that I believe if I understood what was written in the flyer, that it is too late to think about a replacement program. He was surprised by that. I'm surprised by that. The other thing too is that he talked about the importance of trimming the trees, parkway trees, on a 3 to 5 year cycle. I lived in Lisle Meadows since 1995. I'm sorry, I confer with my daughter who's lived there too. We remember twice in the time we lived there, the trees on our parkway being trimmed. So I kindly ask that we please reconsider a regular maintenance program. I'm willing to volunteer to work with residents to sit down and try to put a plan together so that we can mitigate the removal of more trees that don't need to be removed. I understand the ones that are diseased or damaged beyond their livelihood have to come down, but I have photos of many trees that came down that were very healthy, blooming when they came down. People in the area are afraid to ask that they be trimmed because one resident who I spoke to, I went to 200 homes of the 500 door to door. She said, I asked that my tree be trimmed. They came and they took my tree. My neighbor, I said, did you know your tree was coming down? And he said, no, I came home. I didn't recognize my home. My tree was, it's not his tree, but it's in front of his home. It no longer is in front of his home. I have to say your crew did a good job putting topsoil and seed down to cover up the gaping spot where the trees have come down. But too many trees have come down, and I and other residents would like to save as many as we could and replace those that have come down. And I'm willing to work together, as other residents past meetings have said. So I don't want your tenure, I don't know what your plans are in the future, to just wind down and this not be resolved. So thank you. One other comment is I understand the board is trying to ask for, I have no connection with the supervisor, but I'm not embarrassed by that situation. I am embarrassed by how and it is an embarrassment to watch these meetings. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, sometimes look back at how disruptive your dialogue with each other has been.
Time's up. I thank you.
We can allow, to take a vote whether we can allow her to change and keep going. Any other in-person comments, public comments? And anyone online? I saw Ms. Goldenberg's hand up.
Yes, I have a public comment.
Go for it.
Okay. My name is Claire Goldenberg, and I have been a resident of Lisle Township since 1991. I am curious how you think you're going to get to item 21 on your agenda, but we'll see. I don't understand why you think that you can expect the supervisor to step down. She has made it clear she will not step down. You cannot force her to step down. The voters will decide in 11 short months. My money is you will not need to worry about her in the cycle of 25-29. So please, for the sake of our community and for the sanity of those who take part in this government, drop this charade and start learning to work together. You still have time to accomplish things that can have a positive impact on our community. I'm still waiting for the clerk to work on documentation regarding the town halls. Currently, the information on the website on how to participate in the town hall for the residents is almost non-existent. Considering the town hall is supposed to be the people's meeting, having information on hand in the website makes good community sense. However, when I brought it up to the clerk, she insisted on arguing about something that the supervisor did that was against policy that had little to do with what I was trying to bring to the discussion. Then the clerk just dropped it. So I will continue to bring it up here in public comment. Today, you are also discussing transitioning the township administrator from part-time to full-time. This is item 13. For a position the board claimed in the board meeting on December 13th, 2023 would not be needed because, quote, "We believe we have staff who can cover positions so that we don't have a break in the continuity of services due to budgetary reasons," end quote. When you made the motion to cut the operations manager and senior services director, but now clearly you did have a break in the continuity of services and now need to spend the money to hire a full-time position to handle the job duties. So clearly you made a mistake. Please admit it to the public and be more reflective in the future. I also have a comment to our attorney Seckler. I have asked you in an email to please address the fact that elected officials do not get public comment, and please put a stop to this practice. It is not in Robert's rules. Thank you.
Okay, any other online public comments? Don't see any other hands up.
I'll make a public comment as a citizen. I think it's
Excuse me.
Okay, muted her, trustee
Yeah.
Dice, keep going.
I know it's really frustrating to the public when they don't understand exactly what's happening. None of the elected officials have any access to updating the data or the content on the website. The only person who has access to do that is the supervisor. Unfortunately, the other person who did have access to updating the website is on maternity leave, which is awesome. She's at home with her baby. So I love when people come here and they point things out, but we need to make sure we're asking questions, and as public, as member of the public, which I would want to do if I was sitting in your shoes, I'd want to ask questions versus make statements and judgments. Ask questions. I think that you'll actually get the information you're looking for. If you do. We're trying to host these coffees, so hopefully the next coffee you'll be able to come and ask questions and we'll be able to be responsive at that time. But I just wanted to say, I think it's really important that we're having opinion, that we're coming here and we're respectfully expressing ourselves. But it's frustrating when you come here with misinformation. When you come here, first of all, there's nobody here. We've all been very much in sync, so there's no reason to believe that Commissioner Young would ever disparage us, or that we would put ourselves in a position where he would put us in a position where we wouldn't have the opportunity to speak for ourselves. So I wanted to share that with you, but yeah, we can always do better. There's always room for improvement. I wake up every day thinking, how can I be better? But I want you to make sure you're informing yourself and know what the facts are and how things actually work versus just coming and putting people under attack. And I think that's the part that gets frustrating, and that's the muck. Thank you.
And, Lynn?
Yeah, I'm just gonna make a quick public comment. I just wanted to say that you said you would address this or address us as a citizen, but yet you did not. You addressed us as a board member. And you responded to people's comments, which in public comment, board members are not to address public comments.
I was speaking as a
Clerk,
citizen.
Trustee Geis. Glenn, would you like to continue?
Actually, that's all I really needed to say, is that
Thank
you do not need to comment on people's public comments.
Okay, and any other public comments? I will say that Clerk Polowitz does have access to the website. Clerk Polowitz, would you agree that you have access to the website? She's shaking her head, yes, correct?
I apologize. I do have a limited access. There are some things that I cannot go into and cannot change, but I do have some access, yes.
So you can update the minutes or any of the ordinance or anything in the documentation page, correct?
Do you want to talk about that now? I could if I had the right tools to be able to do that. So I know that I have asked you prior to be able to, I can hand them to you guys to be able to get them on the website, and you declined. But now I just got the email that you had said that you'll be willing to help. So I appreciate that. Until I get a proper scanner, that's what we'll do. Thank you for now agreeing to do that. I really appreciate it. So as soon as I get back, I'll get right on it. Perfect.
And you've had fully the time to have anyone make that motion and second it, in order to get that done. Okay, any other public comment? Moving on to Lisle Township 708 Mental Health Board update, Mr. Yamanaka.
Do we need to make a motion for him to move item number 20 up under 5 for him? Do we do that?
We can do that now or later. Would somebody like to make the motion?
Is it 20, item 20? I'll make a motion to move item number 20 up behind item number 5 in the agenda schedule.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Geis and Trustee McGovern, and any other discussion and a roll call vote.
Trustee Geis? Trustee McGovern? Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Page? Supervisor Hewitt?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yamanaka?
Good evening. On advice of council, our 708 board requested the county clerk to calculate our 708 board's limiting rate separately from that of Lisle Township. Separation will ensure that neither the 708 board nor the Lisle Township funds will run afoul of PTAP. Some have questioned the 708 board's overhead costs. Our administrative costs for the 3 fiscal years beginning April 1, 2023, April 1, 2024, and April 1, 2025 is averaging $31,000. We have also set aside $50,000 to contribute to a possible consortium with DuPage mental health boards, but that will primarily be for direct services. In short, we expect that our administrative costs will be approximately 3 to 4% of revenues in succeeding years. We are partway through our first funding cycle. We have interviewed 10 agencies which have submitted grant applications, and our third and final interviews will take place on May 22. We have interviewed 16 agencies which have applied for a total of nearly $1.2 million. Accordingly, we will have to trim about $350,000 from the requested funds in order to stay within our $850,000 limit. At our board meeting in June, we will undertake the difficult task of winnowing out winners and losers among our 16 grant applicants. Then we will need to negotiate contracts with the winning agencies and begin dispersing funds in July. Finally, our strategic planning committee will be meeting again this coming Friday. Chairperson Christine Carlson informs me that she expects that her committee will be ready to present the proposed strategic plans at June 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have agenda item 20 that is moved up, which is authorizing to establish a special bank account for the deposit of community mental health boards. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the establishment of a bank account, a special bank account for the 708 Community Mental Health Board.
Second.
And we want to finish that motion? Trustee Page, it was longer than,
Motion to authorize the Mental Health Board to open a special bank account designated as the Community Mental Health Fund for the deposit of tax revenues from the Community Mental Health Board levy to be administered by the Community Mental Health Board is used only for the purposes specified in the Community Mental Health Act.
thank you, trustee Page, and it was trustee McGovern or who seconded it? I just want to make
Second.
trustee Geist, thank you. And then any discussion, Highway Commissioner Young?
They're a separate taxing body, a separate legal entity. Why are they not opening up their own? Why do they need this approval?
Because how, if I may, how the Community Mental Health Board Act reads, it says the governing authority, the appointing authority has to approve the establishment of the bank account. So in order to ensure everything is legal and above water, working with the county on it, that this is what they wanted to have. That's
Okay.
Thank you, Attorney Secord. Any other discussion? Trustee Geist?
Quick question for you. When you're looking at that $50,000 spend for a consortium, is that, Lisle Township is, how is that gonna be divided? Is among Page? Is it gonna be equitable? Like, how are you gonna decide that those dollars that we've allocated are really going to impact our revenues?
From my understanding, it will be a consortium of a number of 708 boards in DuPage County. It might be 5 separate 708 boards, each chipping in approximately 50. And from that pool of funds, we plan on hiring various counselors to provide mental health services for the various communities or the 708 boards that have chipped into that fund.
So they'll share the burden.
Right.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee Geist, trustee McGovern, trustee Robinson,
Yes.
supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Yamanaka. Next, we have the proclamation in support of Mental Health Awareness Month. And as somebody with ADHD and PTSD, I very much was in a leadership role in getting this 708 board passed. And I've been very impressed with how things have gone with the 708 board. So May is Mental Health Matters Month. This measure would recognize May 2024 as Mental Health Matters Month in Lisle Township, enhancing public awareness of mental health and dispelling its stigma. Whereas half the population will experience some type of mental health challenges throughout a lifetime. Whereas mental health challenges are one of the most common health conditions nationally, affecting 1 out of 6 adults and impacting both the person experiencing mental health challenges and those persons who care for and love the person facing the challenge. Whereas 1 out of every 24 nationally with a serious mental illness has difficulty functioning in everyday life, and if left untreated, has life expectancies 25 years shorter than the general population. Whereas every day millions of people face stigma related to mental health and may feel isolated and alone, going years before receiving any help. Whereas recovery can and does happen. All people should know that support and help is available regardless of any individual situation. Whereas creating a community where everyone feels comfortable reaching out for the support they deserve is crucial in ending the stigma around mental health. Whereas access to support and ending the stigma is of paramount importance. Whereas the Lisle Township 708 Health Board, led by trustees Yosh Yamanaka, John DeCanto, Audrey Burris, Joanne Wright, Gina Sharp, Alexander Zubenko, Stephen Davis, Renee Kosarek, and Christine Carlson have done significant work to create the board to fund the mental health needs of those who live in Lisle Township. Whereas Lisle Township wishes to enhance public awareness of mental health. Therefore, Lisle Township recognizes May 2024 as Mental Health Matters Month in Lisle Township to help end the stigma. Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you. Next is agenda item 7, discussion and possible action about the mosquito abatement plan in place with the contract with VDCI or moving over to Clark. And just to remind everyone, we have previously had a plan which allowed for coverage, working with City of Naperville, working with the DuPage Health or DuPage Forest Preserve, working with the Illinois Department of Public Health to measure and do the trappings that we needed to know when we had an issue here in Lisle Township. We did our own larviciding program, created a map of the sewers and catch basins in order to do that. We already do have a agreement with VDCI that is still in effect since May 31 of 2022 with the same prices. But does anyone else want to start, or does anyone want to make motion so that we can go into discussion? Trustee Robertson.
Is there any representatives from either firm here today to speak to their proposals?
And so I think they may be on a different time frame, but I will and there's
Can I ask a question?
so we need to make a motion
Oh, I thought
first.
you did. I'll make a motion to move to discussion.
So we need to make a motion to approve or to make a motion that. I mean,
I think
is that
we can open discussion, I guess.
okay?
the
We can
things, yeah.
open discussion if we don't want to make a motion yet.
Thank you, Attorney Seckler. So I have a question. It says that we've entered a contract in 2020. I'm sorry?
It was 2022.
In 2020, the township entered a 3-year contract. Is that wrong? Is that incorrect?
Where are you reading this?
On the memorandum?
Okay, I apologize, I didn't see that. Typo.
So in 2020, the township entered a 3-year contract with Clark. But Clark services were last utilized in 2021. Why would we have entered a 3-year contract but not use them in the 3 years of the contract?
Well, there's other options, and that's what we utilized is the decision to frankly make a more cost-effective, a higher quality type of program for Lisle Township, with a more targeted range with regards to the sprays in particular, and again, it's much more cost effective.
Well, I think we should be.
So we
cognizant that have a
weren't
representative
here
here
in
tonight
2020.
that need
It
their
was-
services and say we would have a higher caliber of services. I think we should be careful about we word that. But
So it wasn't this board, it was a different board that decided that in 2020.
you said
And
we looked for a higher caliber service. I was just reminding, we want to be careful how we say that we have representation.
so again, it was more targeted to the areas that we were focused on, and we actually had understandings in our township with 3 different groups to make sure that we knew when there was a actual issue. Any other discussion before we have you hear from Emily?
Yeah, I don't know where the count from catch basins came from. When you did it, I don't know whether you did it last year or the year before. The catch basin numbers that we have on our books compared to what you said you deposited for Peloton were vastly different. I think our number was like 3 times what you said you deposited. So I would be careful to make sure that you have somebody who knows where, and I think Clark has a program, I don't know about Dilly's, that identifies those, but when you did it, you reported the numbers, it was way short. From what we have.
That makes sense. Well, this is your lane. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So welcome.
Thank you. Well, if you have any questions, I guess, as I begin to talk, please let me know. I know that we had talked about all different options for mosquito control programs. And so first of all, Clark is a family-owned company. We've been in business for over 70 years. We're headquartered in St. Charles, so we're local. And I would just like to start by saying the fact that you're having this meeting tonight and I'm here physically in front of you to answer questions that you have should speak volumes, because we are right now in the beginning of May in a very warm season, and guess what? Our mosquito programs are starting on the 13th, which is Monday. I would be curious to see what kind of a program was fully in place, since we had a relationship with the township, which we had again for decades previously. We provide services to a number of the different communities surrounding the township and also within the township. We're able to coordinate sprays when they're happening. We're able to have an idea of where all the breeding sites are, where to treat mosquitoes when they're in their larval form before they become flying, biting, disease-carrying adults. We have all of that information. And we're ready to mobilize very quickly if you need us to. The reason I'm bringing some of this up, and especially the locality aspect and my presence here tonight, is because from what I understand, there was no spraying done last year. And so I'm wondering how and why that decision is being made and who's making it. How do you know when to spray?
It's not our lane. It's a good question.
And the reason it's important to have somebody, so I'm an entomologist, I have a master's in entomology, I've studied bugs for a long, long time. I found my place with Clark. I love working in public health. And one of the reasons it's important to have that science-backed data and that person or persons, that team that can come to you to advise you, is because you clearly have enough other stuff on your plate. You shouldn't be needing to worry about looking up numbers and seeing who's doing what. Again, you all have a million other things you could be doing, but last year we had 16 human cases in DuPage County, and almost a quarter of those were from areas within your township. The
Cases of what? I'm sorry.
West Nile virus, human cases of West Nile virus. So last year, the numbers of mosquitoes testing positive for West Nile virus and the rate at which the human cases were coming up were on par with epidemic levels of 2012. So you absolutely should have done at least one spray, and for sure you should have done more than just treating the basins. That being said, all of the services that we provide come with quality assurance. So if you're wondering, have we been on the street to treat the basins? We treat actually the basins with bicycles. It's really cool. It actually reduces your carbon footprint too. But not only do we have everything mapped out before we go out, but while we're treating the bases, we're dropping pins at each basin that we hit, so we can ensure that all the streets that are supposed to be covered with product are covered. That's for what we put in the basins to essentially shut them down as breeding sites for mosquitoes. The product that we use kills the mosquito larvae before it can become a flying, biting adult. In addition to that, most of the programs that I've provided you with, because I did provide you with 3 different options, do have some other form of larval control to sites other than catch basins. And then in terms of spraying, how do you know that we've been out? You know, what's going on once we make a recommendation and it's approved to do a spray. Again, everything that we do is hooked up to a GPS, and we also have ProMist monitors on our ULV equipment, so we know exactly how much product is coming out, the rate at which it's being applied, if it's been shut off, if it's not been shut off. We pretty much have everything in place for you, and we're here and we're ready to go. So happy to work with you to answer any questions and also to design a program and give an opportunity that fits whatever budget you're working with.
Well, this is new information. I don't think
So,
did anyone?
Anybody would like
I'd like
to,
to make a
trustee
motion.
Geist?
I'd like to make a motion to eliminate the raising of hands. We had a very respectful discussion at the last meeting without having to do that, especially when we have to go back and forth and ask questions. Can I get a second?
Second, I would like to have a discussion that's more conversational.
Okay, so most boards actually have some way of recognizing people and helping the public understand who's going. So we have a second, any other discussion with this? And then a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Geist? Trustee McGovern? Trustee Page? Trustee Robinson?
No,
Supervisor Hewitt?
Nope, the motion passes to forego using our hands.
Thank you.
So
I
it's
appreciate
gonna
that.
be
And
a
first of all, I
free-for-all.
appreciate that you're here. I think
Very
that speaks volumes.
Actually.
Having a small business here present. I don't know what happened. If we have a 3-year contract beginning in 2020, why we didn't continue the services and why we didn't mitigate the risk of people getting sick in our community, the people who were supposed to be taken care of. I don't know, but I would really like to understand what it would take to get back in cycle. My assumption is the board that put this in place in 2020 did so based on an informed decision. An informed decision I don't feel like I had. I'm not blaming anyone for that. I'm just saying, I don't think I knew when we treated the basins, the impact that would have not doing a proper treatment or that people were getting sick in our community. Like, I did not know that. So I'm a little embarrassed, to be honest with you. But I'm also, if I don't know something, I do something wrong, I'm gonna own it. So I'm gonna tell you, ignorance is no excuse. I should have, taken more time to understand the impact of making a change. So I'd like to know what it looks like to get things back up and running. I mean, are we looking at a significant cost change? I mean, what does that look like?
No, actually, we've held all your rates for you since we last had the program.
I have questions about when you last had the program. Were we stocking fish or was it just,
So we have like a aspect of our program where instead of using a larvicide, which is a product we put in the water to kill the mosquitoes, in some sites that are suitable, we use fish just as it's kind of just a cool thing to add. The cost is the same and it's a biological control. So the mosquito fish eat the larvae. So that's something that you could put in your program or not. It's just like, it's just kind of a interesting way to use science, like use something other than you can't use it everywhere. So that's why we don't have fish in all, in all your breeding sites.
Okay.
But yeah, so our full program, comprises like the surveillance and monitoring. We do inspections of various types of sites, throughout the summer months. We do have data on hand that shows sites, like we can look at all the sites you have in the township. We can look at sites that have, over the last few years, had breeding going on. So we call those targeted inspections. And then we can also focus later in the season on sites that we know breed for the Culex mosquitoes, which are the ones that carry and transmit West Nile virus. The reason we know that is because when we go out to your various sites, we not only dip for larvae, so are they there or are they not there? But we also identify by species each type of larvae that are in there. So it really is a lot to figure out how to lean out that program so we don't have to look at every single site every single time you come out. So there's all different options of how you can, and then you've got larval control and adult control also in the different options that were provided. And yeah.
I have a question. Is the mild winter weather, does that have anything to do with, like, can you tell if the winter was mild, we had very little snow? does that have an impact on the mosquitoes for the year, or is it really kind of on the rains that come in the spring?
It's, I mean, people say different things, like my opinion is it's usually more what's happening in the spring and the
Right.
summer. Because the populations are so driven by temperature
Right.
and rainfall.
I've heard people refer to something called a flood mosquito.
Floodwater mosquitoes.
Right, so those eggs would have been laid a long time ago and just sit there until the
Until
water
it rains.
comes, and then they hatch?
Yeah.
Is that, I understand that correctly?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And so those are like our nuisance mosquitoes
Right.
here. Those are the ones that will come out anywhere between 3 to 10 days after a big rain event and just bite you and make being outside absolutely miserable. Culex mosquitoes are a lot more discreet. But those are the ones that carry and transmit West Nile virus here. So.
Yeah.
Nuisance disease.
I had that in 2015. I never, ever want to experience that again. A serious case
I'm
of
so
it.
sorry.
It was not fun.
Can you tell me which is comparable? You've given the three options, which is comparable to the service that you delivered in 2020? Do you know?
Option 3, there's like the full program there, that's, yeah. I think you call it option 3. I don't have that on my answer.
Yeah.
And also,
Yes, 3 is exactly what you had before. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
and to be clear, I think trustee Geis may not have caught up with some of the things that happened in the past.
Yeah.
So I did ask the Highway Commission for a map of the sewers. Instead, we did make a map of the sewers that would allow us to drop pins. When the sewers are dropped, then we would know exactly that the person has gone and where they're going. We have identified about 778 catch basins with 28 different, some contiguous different routes. Did you ever, Emily, notify the residents when they were about to be sprayed by anything, like the people in the unincorporated areas? Because part of the thing to understand is the unincorporated areas are these areas in gray. Any of the areas that were, when you're looking at Lisle Township, there's 3 main neighborhoods, one in the Meadows, one in Century Hills, and then this large area in the Forest Preserve. Did you ever notify anybody when there was going to be spraying?
So how our operations currently exist right now, well, previous seasons. Generally, the municipalities manage notifications on a township-wide or community-wide level. However, we have an 800 number and a customer portal. So what we do is, because people don't want to be bombarded by all different kinds of phone calls, any resident that wants to be put on our notification hotline can register. And then the day of the spray, we will call them and let them know that the spray is occurring, but they need to get in touch with us either by our 800 number or by our portal. And then as long as they're on that list, that notification hotline, they'll get notified every single year unless they call and tell us not to notify them. So again, we're not doing it's not like an emergency line, like when we call every single resident, we don't do that, but we will help you with any media support that you need. I understand there's some right now legislation that's might be changing that notification, it might be necessary at some point to do certain types of broader notifications. And so once that comes to be or doesn't come to be, we'll work with each municipality to make that happen.
Because I know when I live in the unincorporated areas, and I don't know how many times the trucks would come around and fumigate, and it really went inside my whole home. So in the past, what we had was a system where and it was set up by the Illinois Department of Public Health. And it was a system where we worked with the Forest Preserve, the city of Naperville, who does their own larviciding, and the Illinois Department of Public Health, who all have traps in Lisle Township, and they could let us know when they had any notification that there were any mosquitoes that needed to be done. And each of the different municipalities, as you can see, all the municipalities here, they have their own contracts or their own plans. So I think most of the municipalities work with you all. And the city of Naperville again does their own. So the only places that we would be actually contracting for would be the areas in gray. And then just a reminder, we do have about $3,000 worth of the tablets from last year. So that's where we're at, sorry, 2,400, because it's $800 a box of tablets of the
So,
larger size. So
There's actually pricing in there because Jim had asked me about that and we will discount you. That amount, so I'm not, there should be corrected pricing in there or some note in there that reflects that.
Oh, that's great.
We will just basically do labor. If you wanted us to do your basins, we will use a product that you have.
That's
And
great.
are you also the producer and the service, the people that do the service? So you do the production of the chemicals and then you do the service of the chemicals, is that correct?
We, for certain products, there's some products that we distribute and others that we manufacture that we have an R&D facility. We have a facility that produces different larvicides and adulticides. So actually, and both of our buildings are designed according to LEED standards. So if you ever wanted to come out and like take a tour even and see what we do, you know, we love to do that. We love to have people in, but yeah, so some of the products that we use in our services are products that we use. So if we were to do your basins, we would use a different product. It actually stays in your basin for 180 days. The one that you have now is 150 days with Alticid. We also distribute that too. So you could buy that from us if you wanted to. So what we would essentially do is if you wanted us to do your basins for this year while you have products on hand, so that doesn't go to waste, we'll discount and work with you to get that up there. Inventory.
I think that's a really fair compromise. I think what I really appreciate, well, there's a number of things. One, you're here. Two, we had an agreement in place, but we didn't honor it. Three, you're here. And I believe we ought to stay in our lane, right? Like, you know, I wouldn't, you know, tell you how to take care of mosquitoes. I don't expect you to tell me how to make gumbo. Right? So, but that said, I appreciate expertise, and I think if we had this, and again, like I said earlier, that was not a dismiss of anybody's choice when I said I feel ignorant. I do feel ignorant. I feel like I should have asked more questions and understood the impact of it. And I've never had West Nile virus, but from what Trustee Page just said, that sounds like a really scary thing. And if we have a compromised immune system, or you're a senior citizen who we care so deeply for, I wouldn't want them to risk catching West Nile virus because we haven't done our due diligence and really exhausted the service, the option of the services that you provide. So this is not a dismiss of what's happened the last 3 years. So let me make sure that's clear. There's no attack. I feel like I should have asked more questions. So I'm gonna own that. And I would like to make a recommendation that we renew our contract with Clark for option number 3 as soon as possible.
And looking over the VDCI information, did you see any other pricing other than per mile? Is it just per mile for adults? So there's no larvicide available, or?
Yes, they
Just enough for that package?
they gave us a quote for the larviciding, should we wish to do that, and that is right here. So they would charge us 6,800.
For cats. Okay, and that's the extent of their treatment.
So they would, this is for the service. This is the all associated cost to perform the work, including the briquettes.
Supervisor,
So
you
that-
sort of said they're getting dropped off. I just wanted to alert you.
Okay, well, I'm not dropping anyone off. People's internet access may be testy, but I'm not kicking anyone out. Because can be seen.
And then my last question is, what is the square acreage of the gray area roughly?
About 50 miles.
Square acreage?
Well, it's how many miles of road is actually the correct, what we would be using.
She asked a question, you answered something else.
Well,
That's
I,
fine, that's.
okay, so
don't
I
get involved.
clarified the mileage count and it's generally 50 square miles. Would you agree? Or 50 miles of road, is
50
that,
miles of road.
so that's where you would be spraying.
But you're spraying the roads.
Right.
You would be spraying the roads. You, like, you would be driving in a truck
Houses.
on
right,
roads.
I think you're asking like, what's the territory in houses? that
Right.
we cover.
So
I
we
think
have
That's what he was.
6 by 6. Every township is 6 by 6 miles. And the roads in the unincorporated areas, as Highway Commissioner Young has just said, is about 50 miles of roads. Which is how you would be doing the spraying.
Other routed miles in the past are what's shown on the contract and being right around 700. That's when it's full routed.
Okay, so 78,
Yeah,
not, okay,
so
I think that answers your question.
Yeah.
My only concern is knowing how many catch basins there are. And Commissioner Young, you said that there's a discrepancy between what we think there are and what there are. How,
I haven't seen that for a couple of years, but I'll go back and try and find it.
okay, thank you.
We would love to have your maps. I have a map right that has all of the exact addresses, where all the streets are.
I have to look at that.
Of the catch basins that took
Yeah.
years to develop.
I still think that an entomologist and working with a professional agency versus having food pantry volunteers do these larvicide tablets. I don't know. I just see I see the value in working with somebody who's, especially when we're playing with fire with like West Nile virus and, potentially making our constituents at risk.
So again, you have 3 choices of using BDCI, Clark, or our own services, all to do the same thing. Where you have BDCI does have professionals that
Yeah.
can do this.
Are
They're
they here?
located in Schaumburg. I think they may have had a time issue that
Because it says they will attend the meeting.
right,
Actually.
and I think they may have had a time issue. I'm trying to get the person on. He's the person that I generally talk to is not local.
I feel
Um,
strongly if our business was important, just like when we dealt with the snow removal. That company showed up, they came here, they gave a presentation, they asked questions, and I think that there's a significant value in that. Anybody in this room probably had 8 other things they needed to do tonight, and they're here. So I think we just need to be respectful of that.
And let me just ask again, with the audience here, is anybody online with VDCI? Just because I think they may have a different name. Okay, maybe not.
So is there more?
No,
Motion.
my only question is, I do not think that our current budget goes up to.
I was just gonna say, no, we have to
$50,000
increase that, right?
mitigation. I think it's around 20. If I'm recalling correctly, don't have it in front of me.
20,000.
Well, here's the
Current,
challenge
for the
with that, we
proposed
made-
budget for next fiscal year.
Right.
Yeah.
That's on the agenda is 20.
So we can still discuss that, but that's kind of what's concerning to me, that we weren't aware of this contract. So we wouldn't even have the opportunity to build it and to know. Is it? Right? So
So we don't have.
Gary, did you, sorry,
contract
trustee
in
Robinson,
effect,
did you?
because that was
were you aware of
2020
this?
and 3 years
Not
would be
sure.
2023.
Well, I was asking trustee Robinson since he's on the budget committee. So,
So we would be out of contract of a 3-year contract. Am I adding
We'd have
things
to
up
renew-
wrong if it's 2020 and, 3 years,
Yeah,
so it'd be
yeah.
2024.
24, we're out of
So,
contract, so I
yeah.
said we should renew the contract, right? So when you're out of contract, you either renew it or you don't. So I made the recommendation to renew the contract. Now, if we have to look at the dollars, then let's look at the dollars. We'll probably. Trustee Robinson, is there somewhere where we can pick up this difference if we only budgeted for 24?
We
We budget
budgeted
for 20.
20.
So who So remember when we were having the budget meeting and I said, how are we coming up with these numbers? Like, what's dictating, what's driving these values in these boxes? And we were just putting numbers in based on the advice, but not based on real data or.
Please, stop. I would like to make a motion that we approve Clark option 2 for 23,970. If it turns out that that's not giving us sufficient coverage, then I think we come back and revisit it.
Yeah, there's
That's
adult
close,
site
that's close enough
treatments
to our budget.
for
But
37.
I don't understand why he says stop. I was just trying to explain, I never saw anything from mosquitoes, so that's why I was asking. So I think when we.
I've just made a motion.
Second, okay.
Thank you.
Why I made. Okay, got
So
it.
thank you, trustee Robinson. Thank you, trustee McGovern. We're in discussion. I would like to make sure that whenever you're gonna do any sprays, if you can let us know so that we can properly let the community know. I mean, just opting in is the wrong way to go about it.
No, you
Remember
never
that.
do. I will, with all my customers, I send out, a few days in advance. I'll send you an email with whoever wants to be on that email, whoever should be on the email. And I'll let you know, like, we are, well, you all can tell me, because there might be like the police department or public works, like whoever you think wants to be on that or should be. Or sometimes it's a communications person.
Every one of our subdivisions has a board, which typically has a leader. So we should make sure that all the board members are on that communication team.
Right, so, and this one is more just between Clark and the township directly at first to say, we are recommending a spray and this is when it's gonna happen and this is why it's gonna happen. And then also, if you wanna know who else is going with you, we will tell you that too. And then if you wanted to give to me a separate list, like, once it's all decided, I'm happy to
Good.
let those individuals know, or we could even put them on our
That's what I would
our
suggest.
call list too, or then nothing gets missed, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I know that we have a motion on the table. Can I ask a question? What is the impact of us going, what is the I'm a risk. I want to know that, understand the risk. What's the risk of going with 2 versus 3? What are we risking?
So it's essentially the biggest difference you're gonna probably see is just in terms of like what's covered with the larvicide and the inspections. So there's a number of sites within the township. And the amount of times that we will go out and inspect them, and if there's breeding, treat them.
Okay.
That's a difference, and then there's also some difference, I believe might be a difference in the helicopter acreage too, but I don't think so with that one. I think we kept it the same.
It was the same.
So, yeah, so it's mostly the treatment of breeding sites. And there's always options to build your program back up, because it's obviously been like cut down a lot from what it was, what it used to be.
Yeah, well, that's my concern, right? I understand we have a motion on the table for option 2, and that's great. But if we haven't had any, I could understand if we wanted to reduce, but we haven't had any, so we're not even building up to maintain. We have to build up to maintain. We're not at a maintenance phase, is what I'm getting at, right? So we're having to build back up, right? No,
Yeah,
that's not
so-
true. Are you
so
an
the-
entomologist too?
So oh,
No,
sorry.
I don't know.
What I was gonna say is the good thing is that we had your program before,
Okay,
so you're not starting like from scratch from someone that's never done any of these inspections. We have
you're familiar.
decades of where all your sites are.
Okay.
So as soon as you say start, we're gonna be out there, we're gonna be inspecting them, we're gonna get the product into your basins, we're gonna get product into areas that we know hold water and breed mosquitoes
Okay.
right away.
Okay.
And once that product's in there, it doesn't matter if it was in there last year or not,
Yeah,
we'll be there now to put it in.
listen, I know nothing about this. I'm not even planning to, but when I saw her saying no, I was like, wait, well, I want to know what she's thinking, because if I want to make sure we're doing the right thing financially and health wise for our community.
And financially, it's in your best interest. The more product that you sell, the more fear that you breed with regards to mosquitoes. It's in your best interest to make sure that we're spending the most money to do this.
Let's have our vote.
Okay, and we have any other
I'm so
discussion?
sorry.
And could we please take a roll call vote?
Sure. Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee McGovern, trustee Geist,
Yes.
Trustee Page,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Okay, the motion passes.
I apologize, Supervisor Hewitt, I could not hear yours. Was
Oh.
yours a yes? No, okay, got it, sorry.
Okay. Next we have the accountant's report.
Thank you for your time.
And the check detail was updated, the payroll is right here in the packet. Does anybody have any questions?
Where are we with respect to the audit?
Should be done in the next few weeks. We had the accountants have, from Lauterbach and Amen, had several discussions with our auditing firm Sickage. And they said that they expect to tie everything out on Friday and finish the transition over. So I would expect that it's being finished by the next meeting.
The audit?
Yes, the audit.
I think you said something, confused me there. Said something, they're gonna be done with this Friday, they're done?
They said that they are, no, I didn't say that. I said that the transition over to the new software.
That's got
which
nothing
has
to do with
been-
the audit.
Yes, it does. The reason why the transition to the new software has been held up was because they wanted to make sure that everything was tied out with the audit, so that when they transitioned over, it would all be in step. So that was the reason for the delay in the audit, was not at all. It was the needing to tie out the numbers before they transitioned over.
So then, when they transition over, the audit will be complete.
The accounting firm has said that that's part of their delay, is they have submitted everything that they needed to our firm, Sickage. And they expect that their final information should be returned shortly. I spoke to Jacob on Monday about this. He said that he feels like it would be done before the next meeting.
Is somebody talking to the auditor?
Yes,
Oh.
I've reached out several times. Jim
when's
has
the
reached
last time
out.
You had a conversation with them, and when did they say it would be ready?
I haven't reached out since Monday, but Jim and myself have been on at least every month trying to figure out what the timing of the audit is going to be finished.
Will we get a draft financial statement before we issue the fund?
I would expect one any day.
Thank you.
I see a charge for $5,000 this month for the audit. Is there one more $5,000 or where are we at?
That is exactly what is due for the audit, so I would expect that, like I said, within the month.
I'm sorry, so that is the final payment? The $5,000 that is on the books today is the final payment for the audit?
We had budgeted $20,000 and I thought we were at $15,000 having paid. So I would expect that, again, we're gonna pay the amount that we had contracted with for $20,000 total. So that's where we're at with the audit
Could I
expenditure.
just suggest that we hold off on that $5,000 till the audit is complete? Since we don't actually have a date that we know that the audit will be complete?
I would expect that would be the case. I don't believe that, again, I think we're at 15,000 having expenditure. And I wouldn't expect to pay for the end payment without the audit.
Okay, so I apologize. The $5,000 today is for the $15,000. It's not the final payment. Is that what you're saying?
Don't believe that it's the final payment. I can go through and double check.
I would just make sure that we're not paying in full if it's not done.
Totally agree.
Can't the accountant participate by Zoom? Why does somebody from the accounting?
Because again, it was part of their contract that they don't participate every single time. It does look like it could be the final payment, so I would suggest that we hold that payment. Trustee Robinson,
I'm looking at the, profit and loss budget versus actual from April as of 4/8, and we'd only paid $10,000 as of 4/8.
okay,
I think we did agree that we didn't want them here at every meeting, but when we're talking about the new budget, I think it's important to have that.
okay, and what they asked was that we asked them to be here, and I didn't have any requests for them to be here. They weren't aware that we were going to need their help, so if anybody would like them at the next meeting, we can make that request, but they didn't, again, that was a part of the approval of their contract, was that they wouldn't be here at every meeting. And I know that the trustees that were doing the audit of expenditures went through it with the accountant or with the accounting staff.
Did they have the clarity on what would be due for the audit then? I'm sorry, that's what I should ask you.
Well, if the last month, I mean, if the,
Trustee Robinson?
Well, as I said,
Audit, right?
yep, I looked at it, we've paid 10,000 to them so far as of the end of, as of 4/8. So we're paying 5,000 more, so I mean, we paid them 15,000. No, limit of 5,000 is what I figure.
I also would hope whoever initialed it and approved it would have looked into that, I would hope.
It's what we do.
right, so would you like to?
Make a motion to go into audit of bills and claims.
Thank you, and
I'll second.
thank you, and then any discussion? And a roll call vote?
Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern, trustee Geist, Supervisor Hewitt.
Okay, we're on number 10.
Making a motion to approve the bills and claims.
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee Robinson and trustee Page. Any other discussion? And a roll call vote?
Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page, trustee McGovern, trustee Geist. I can't hear you. Trustee Geist, did you?
That's what I was trying to mention to Supervisor Hewitt. They're saying that the owl is not picking up volume beyond what just her voice and the noises at that end. Sorry.
I'm just going to suggest, like, if you just wait a second to say your vote after I call your name, then I might be able to pick you up.
I thought I did, but okay, I'll do better.
Sorry, no, maybe you did. That was just my suggestion to see if it would work. And Supervisor Hewitt, I'm not sure if I got you, Supervisor Hewitt, for the audit.
Yes, and when I talk, as you can see here, this in the sound, you can see the output and the output in the input showing that when I'm talking, it's going into the owl.
They
Thank
hear
you.
you. They do.
Yeah,
They just don't.
my only problems are with trustee McGovern and trustee Geist, because I think they're a little further away. That's all.
The audience is saying the same thing.
Okay.
On the camera, I'm getting texts.
Thank you. Payment of prior Ansel and Glink and Odelson Murphy, Fraser and McGrath bills.
Make a motion to pay the prior Ansel, Blink, and Odelson, Murphy, Fraser, and McGrath bills.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? And a roll call vote?
Trustee Robinson, trustee Page, trustee McGovern, trustee Geist,
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
the supervisor's report, agenda item 12, the food pantry distributed food to 816 families in April. There were 2,264 people served. Families included 647 children. Better Impact Volunteer System has made advances in being set up. A number of other food pantries, every single one that I know of is going to their local post office to pick up food. It has been a system-wide change, not a issue with Lisle Township. So for example, West Suburban Food Pantry, they are sending people to the Woodridge Post Office to get their food in particular. General Assistance worked 19 cases in April 2024 and granted 10,529.62 in total assistance, with 6,695 in rental assistance. There were 10 LIHEAP applications, fielded 174 casework calls. There were 8 RTA registrations. There's been a change in RTA to let anybody know that knows people that have been affected by this change. The main change is that physicians, audiologists, nurse practitioners, teachers, psychiatrists, LSW/LCSW, basically social workers, physician assistants, case managers, psychologists, optometrists, and chiropractors all can use the reduced fare application program, regardless of whether you're a senior citizen or not. So I just want to make sure that you all knew that. Transportation, there were 174 rides in May. The average riding costs and average mileage keeps going down. Passports, there are 28 passports. Reminders for the clerk. Ruby has provided the clerk with the crucial easement agreement signed and notarized at the town hall. We'll just redo it because we need to get moving on that. The amended 23-24 budget still needs to be posted. The clerk is the only one who has it. Both the levies from December 2023 and 2021 were not posted. The clerk is the only one who has them. The minutes have yet to be posted since July 2023. The clerk is the only one who has them. The ordinances and resolutions have not been updated since 2023. The clerk is the only person that has them. The decennial committee needs to meet shortly, but they will need those documents updated on the website to do their work. And again, if the clerk needs help, she has been invited to bring them over and we can take care of them internally and get them back to her and posted. So that is the supervisor's report. And if anybody wants to make a motion, there's been discussion of giving her another device to do so. Then it was discussed that she wanted to give us submit another option. We just never heard back. Okay.
Could you clarify the device?
I'm sorry.
Or-
Why don't we let her speak for what her request is so that we understand versus just the.
Yeah, I don't understand fully.
So there was a bunch of emails and I asked to give us a quote and then the clerk asked to do her
Supervisor
own
Hewitt, can you
quote
let Clerk
for a
Roberts let us know
scanner
what her
or for a
request is?
printer. But again, the minutes don't need a scanner or printer. They just need really a PDF to be uploaded to the
Could
website.
we let her speak for herself for her request? We'd like to
Sure,
hear
Clerk
it.
Polowitz.
I'm not gonna go on with this. The trustees, I think you got my email individually about what is transpiring. Yes, I have all the documents. I've done all the documents, although I'm not sure about the easement that was notarized. I do not believe I have that one, so I prefer that you would do that again. I do not have, we'll go backwards. I do not have a printer scanner copier that works as the supervisor for a printer copy scanner. So the other alternative I had told her is I could give her what I have. Twice I've said that, and she had declined to put them on the website. So now she's offering. So I'm happy for that, and we will do that. If you would like to make a motion to, Supervisor Hewitt, it's your responsibility to get me, to get everyone the tools they need to do their job. And the only reason I'm saying this again is because you just went into a little monologue about it. So if you'd like to make a motion to, or why don't you just get me a printer scanner copier that's color that works?
Can I ask a question? Did we approve this didn't we approve this?
No, so I
In an
asked
email, I think we
Jerry
did.
to give us a quote because that's what our policy is. And he said, he gave us a quote. And then the clerk Polowitz said that she wanted to not use Jerry to do this, that we didn't need to go
No.
that far.
I did,
But-
Jerry, you can get a printer, scanner, copier at Staples,
Mhm.
at Target. You
But
don't need to
it's,
pay Jerry to give us a recommendation.
it's
can
going to
go
be
get
set
it.
up and integrated into our software and integrated into the system. And so I wanted to make sure that our IT person was consulted like we do for any other piece of large electronic equipment that technologically that would be then plugged into our system.
I'd like to make a motion to secure a 3-in-1 printer copper fax scanner for for Clerk Polowitz. It would be under the $500 limit anyway. Can we please get a motion to get her this device so she can do her job effectively?
Unfortunately,
It's a network device. It should be properly installed by our IT consultant.
I'm telling, okay, go ahead,
it's
sorry.
just, I don't either, whatever the board wants to eventually do, it's not on the agenda to do
Okay.
that. That's.
That's fair,
So you can't take a final action on
that's
on
fair, that's
that.
fair. But we also can vote to approve a dollar amount of anything, and we haven't had to have it on the agenda. We've approved other items under $500 without being on an agenda.
Well, you could do
Correct.
it pursuant to
outside of
the purchasing policy, you usually do it, don't you do it like you can do that by email or something, and then it's on the.
I
audit
thought we
after
did
the
do it
fact.
by email. That's what I'm asking.
I don't.
Yeah, I believe I said it in email. I approved this purchase. So we did do that. Was there not another board member who also approved it?
I can send everybody that email and where it was left.
I'm sorry.
I'm not even sure you need to do any of that. It's just, it's an office equipment. It's under $500. Supervisor Hewitt, just get it signed off by our township administrator and you could order it. You
Okay,
don't need to do the motions.
so what do we need to do? Nothing?
Nothing. Okay, discussion and possible action to
When can we
approve.
expect this purchase to be completed?
I will talk to the township administrator on Friday, when he comes in next.
Okay. We can
This,
help with them?
yes, like I said,
Thank
I'll
you.
talk to the township administrator and send everyone on this board the email thread and where it was left off. Okay, discussion and possible action to approve the Gov HR recruitment agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve GovHR recruitment agreement at the level of the virtual recruitment option.
Second.
Okay, and any other discussion?
I think it's important to make sure that people understand that we are not hiring people who are replacing the people that we had to let go last year. An administrator is not head of senior services. An administrator is not head of senior transportation. I think that's gotten a little muddled, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. But my understanding is we're looking to just hire another contractor in replacement of him, right, Mr. Marino?
Only temporarily.
Only
Right now,
temporary.
we're looking for a temp.
Right.
And actually, we need to come together for a date for an interview.
Okay.
And we're looking for a replacement,
Right, and how much time do we have?
like July 1st. I think we wanna,
July 1st?
Two questions. I think her question is, how long is Jim gonna be here?
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna last much past the end of this month. He is.
Is there something that's driving that?
Yeah, he's as fed up with this board as the people sitting here are.
dysfunction,
He's fed up with the board, Trustee Robinson?
just the utter dysfunction.
He's,
that We can't get anything
okay,
done.
but there's a big difference between him being frustrated with getting things done, because we're not standing in his way of getting it.
We never
done.
approved anything.
I approve things all the time. I've got email after email of it.
Anyways, we're off topic. I apologize.
Really, and I do appreciate the apology, because you did yell at me earlier today. It was very disrespectful.
No, it was very on time.
It was very
Okay,
disrespectful,
so
Trustee
to come
Robinson.
back
You
to
are out
where
of
we're
line and
at.
very disrespectful, and I've had enough of it.
So to
I
come
was
back
not
to where we're
disrespectful to
at,
you.
the proposal is for the Gov HR recruitment agreement. This isn't for the interim person. This is for the full-time position. That's what you would be looking for. So the interim, you have the contract with Gov HR and that keeps going every week. Because the contract ended April 10th was the end of that contract. And now we're on a week-to-week basis and we'll get a new interim person. But this is for the full-time recruitment of the township administrator.
We're tasking GovHR to recruit for us.
And, yeah,
So we have a motion. There's a second. Any other discussion?
One more time, this is for a full-time administrator?
It is. This is the recommendation of our current interim administrator, says there is more work than can be done part-time. So he's recommending that we go full-time.
And then what your motion is, full-time? Okay,
Well, I thought we were reducing his hours, trustee Page. I thought that's where we got to.
Well, we tried to, but it didn't work out. He actually ended up having to increase his hours. His tasks at hand just kept growing and growing.
Okay, so here's why this is important, the question I'm gonna ask you, and this is not to be contentious. This is not to be contentious. It's an honest question. If he's frustrated with feeling like he can't get anything done, bringing another full-time person in who can't get anything done, what are we accomplishing? Shouldn't we fix the root of the problem? I don't know, because I was just informed that he's fed up with the board, so I'm gonna call him tomorrow and talk to him about what we can do to make it easier for him, at least in July.
Well, he's not staying until July.
He stayed till when?
Jim, he's out of here at the end of the month.
Oh, at the end of May.
Yes, end of May, yes. And we need to bring in another temp to take over for him until we can get somebody in here. to
Okay.
do
So-
the job.
So it's just a tap until July.
Yes.
Okay.
So what this is for is to recruit the full-time person permanently. So it's the permanent option, not the temp one. Okay, and so do we want to go a roll call vote? Clerk Polowitz?
trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Geist. One more time, trustee Geist.
No, until we solve the problem, I don't see the point in spending more money, bringing more people in.
Supervisor Hewitt,
Yes. Thank you. We will start the recruitment with GovHR's advice and consent. The motion passes. Next, we have discussion and possible action on the 2024-2025 budget and appropriation ordinance for Lisle Township.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-002 with the one change that we have to increase the mosquito control budget line 10.3100 by $5,000 because of our earlier decision.
Okay. And any a second?
I will second, but I have something to add, trustee Robinson. Did we speak of, we talked about the legal needing to be
That's what
increased,
the
was
increase-
that increased?
Yes.
And that would be to cover,
So this document has been updated since it was reviewed at the public meeting.
Right.
We have included increased legal fees by $20,000 to accommodate prior year billing that wasn't paid in the prior fiscal year, plus additional expenses that came in, legal fees in the month of April that we know are going to affect our overall budget. So that 20,000 was already added. And then I'm suggesting we're gonna have to add 5,000 more for mosquito control.
And there is also some issues with our previous not this board's tax levies, but previous administration's tax levies. So that's part of the reason as well. Is paying for those previous
Right.
bills.
I will second.
Thank you, trustee Page. And now we're in discussion. Highway Commissioner Young.
Your first page doesn't.
Which line?
Well, it's not line, it's a total. Instead of the second amendment being 271,000, it should be 3,269. For a total of 8,191,143. And then your discrepancy or your difference is 268,450.
Thank you for catching that. I'm sorry, can you give me those numbers again?
Your second amendment, 23-24, total income, $3,269,100. Your total available becomes $8,191,143. Your total income difference should be $268,450.
Does that carry all the way through, or is that just on the first?
That's your total. I
Everything else is fine.
wouldn't say that, but there's just some. If you go to 10-3, no, 10-30-100. You get $20,000, $20,000, $20,000 business.
Where was that?
I think he's right. It's mosquito control.
Yeah.
So that number will be 5,000, mosquito control will be,
27.
it'll be, well, the
Yeah.
second column will be 25,000, the delta will be 5,000.
You're off with rent 10-1601. You have 105,000 with a difference of 0.
Well, that's because in the.
All right, I will have those changes made to the appropriations document. I have all the numbers cross-checked and footed. Thank you for pointing those out.
I'll note that the total appropriation will need to change, just, should be included technically in the motion. That the total amount appropriated will increase by $5,000.
Right, and so, right, so
Yeah.
that will,
That's, the total appropriation is the key for.
right, 34,97,076. Because of the decision we made tonight.
We are deducting the blocks we have.
Do you need to add in the legal fees as well that you said you were adding in? Or are those already reflected?
Already reflected.
Thank you.
And we have to up mosquito by 5,000.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's what I said.
Yeah.
And then as this attorney pointed out, that means that the total appropriation increased by $5,000 as well.
Were there other changes besides legal fees?
No. No, nothing has fundamentally changed since we met since we had our public meeting on the 25th of March. The only thing that was brought to the attention of the budget discussion was 20,000 more for legal, and now based on tonight's decision, 5,000 more for mosquito control.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote?
Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Geist. One more time, trustee Geist?
Oh.
No. Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes. Okay, the budget passes with those amendments and those changes. Next, we have the discussion and approval of the Lisle Township Road District.
I think I went through the major points at the board meeting. Basically, I intend to hire a new full-time employee because that one from when I started looking to the future that we're gonna need some additional assistance. My capital improvements that I've outlined, I got a call from the fire chief who said that he may wish to join the road district in the fueling operations that we intend to upgrade this year sometime, so we're gonna have to go back and look at that. I think there's enough money in the budget to cover, should we need to upgrade the size of the tank. for diesel fuel and gasoline. And other than that, nothing's changed from what we discussed at the public meeting and the initial meeting with the trustees.
And when was the last time there was a new vehicle purchased? For yourself?
For myself,
Mhm.
I never bought one. So the one I am driving now was purchased for for Highway Commissioner Dow, which was three commissioners. Two.
Okay. And one of the options for a highway district and a board is to come to an agreement about the salary of the highway commissioner. So if we wished, and if you all wish to share the salary, it could be up to 50% of the highway commissioner's salary could be coming out of the highway district's budget. We haven't come to that agreement, but would you be interested in doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a motion for approval.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
And to be clear, the amount of money spent on trees and without a plan on any additional trees. You've heard a lot from people about the tree situation and you feel comfortable with, I mean, the city of Naperville, the city of Wheaton, they all have really great plans to match a contribution to the person or to have like a sale of the trees. So I would really highly recommend creating a plan to have a better matching or a better allowance for those trees.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that we were gonna evaluate that. The problem that we have to consider too is not only does the township unincorporated residents pay taxes to the road district, but the incorporated residents do as well. So if we offer a service other than maintaining our roads, how do we make whole those people that pay taxes? Or should we try and make whole those people that pay taxes in the incorporated areas?
So you could just have a ability to buy trees, for example, for anybody in Lisle Township. At a rate that would be commensurate. The other option in you just pointed out a very true fact. So the people in the incorporated areas essentially subsidize the people in the unincorporated areas for our roads.
That's
The
right.
entire piece, right?
That's right.
Mhm. So just to know that that doesn't always have to be the case. One of the other things that can happen is that at a town hall meeting, that could be changed as to how things were done with regards to the trees. There could be a motion for somebody to actually make an amendment in your budget to have trees paid for out of your budget items. So that's just a future possibility that people might think about.
Are there grants or like through the Forest Preserve District?
There are, and
Yeah.
for the initial part, the inventory and the assessment of the trees, we have started conversations with the arboretum. And they said there's grants coming available in the fall, and they indicated that would be very viewed favorably. I mean, she
Because
wasn't
of
gonna
the parkway.
guarantee anything, yeah,
Yeah.
to do that. So that's what we're trying to hope to get. I put money in the budget as well to get that initial assessment done.
And that's something that our person who writes grants can search for.
Yeah,
Well, I appreciate that you're making the efforts to remediate the frustration of the residents.
Does the village of Lisle provide a parkway tree service? Naperville does. I
No,
believe
you
it's
have
a
to buy it.
share cost.
No, you have to buy it.
So you have to pay for yours out with the whole thing outright, but
Yeah.
they'll come and plant it?
I
Remove it. I know they'll
Because
remove it.
Naperville will, they share the cost, we pay,
No.
and it's a sapling, it's not a large tree. So we pay for half the cost.
and how much is that?
I wanna say my own is maybe 140 each,
Okay.
so it was not much, right, but they also say to maintain them, right,
Or
but
do they?
on a 7-year basis, but they
Yeah, so
really
much-
don't come through.
Right. in line, I thought. at
And
one
they have
point-
very strong guidelines of what kind of tree.
Yeah,
Like Naperville
Yeah,
does too.
well, we would too. As a matter of fact, we have a regulation now that limits what trees you can plant in the park right now.
Yeah.
We need to be able to. Well, but a lot of them used to have it. I thought they still did, maybe they don't, but they used to have it because I want to take advantage of it.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Lisle Township Road District 2025 budget appropriations.
We're still actually in discussion, if anybody wanted to finish discussion. So I brought up the city of Naperville's tree removal and replacement. So they have a 50-50 cost share program. They just had a sale that went a month so you could buy a tree. They had a variety of different programs. The city of Wheaton had the cheapest, and you don't have to live in the city of Wheaton to buy their trees. It was $25 for a whole variety of cheap trees. And they do this cost sharing that's explained. So there's no cost to the property owner for removal or stump grinding, but they have a robust program for their trees. And then, so if
This
you
is
just
great
Google,
information. Does it impact his budget?
I'm just explaining
No, I'm
the issue
asking, I
with
don't
the
know.
trees. So 40% of the city of Naperville's population is in Lisle Township. So because it really impacts the people of Lisle Township, I just wanted to let people know about that.
Okay.
So
There is no other township in DuPage County that offers any sort of tree service.
That's not true. And I know I'm out of order, but I sent you information that is not true because trustee Geis, and will do respect, I researched it. I sent each of
Which
you.
township has?
Look
I
behind
didn't
you.
disagree anything. Why do I keep getting called out, which is great, and things that I didn't even disagree with.
okay, so we need to keep to the budget.
It's a first,
Supervisor Hewitt, you need a motion in a second.
We have
We
a
have
first
it.
and a second.
We have a first and a second. So can we have a
Who
roll
is,
call?
I'm sorry, who is the second?
McGovern.
Trustee Geis, but I don't have the second.
McGovern?
Thank
Trustee-
you.
Is there any other discussion from a board member?
I just think that with the cicadas coming too, maybe this year is not the best year because
Put baby trees up.
to baby trees.
Agreed.
I work in Downers Grove and all the young stuff, it's just covered everywhere. It's just pretty labor intensive.
Okay, so do we want to take a roll call vote? Clerk Politz?
Sure, trustee Geist,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee Robinson,
Yes.
supervisor Hewitt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
One thing, there is one other township that does have, I just remembered it today. But it's very minor and they just spend virtually no money. We've had to send out interest.
okay, then thank you all. The motion passes. Discussion and possible action to approve the accurate contract.
I'll make a motion to approve the accurate contract and the end user agreement that's associated with it.
I'll second the motion.
And then any discussion? And a roll call vote?
Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Geist,
Yes.
supervisor Hewitt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're on to discussion on a possible action to approve future ARPA grant requests. And this was in consultation with Jordan and Jim. 3 more true freezers from Gator Chef, 10 more wire shelves. 2 true refrigerators, again from Gator Chef, 1 industrial size scale, 2 tablets to instantly translate language in real time. They could be used for the food pantry as well as the general assistance. We need 2 smaller electric pallet jacks and 1 electric forklift. If you all would agree to that. So so that's where we're at with those. Trustee Geist.
I would be in support of this. One of the things that I think is important, if maybe we can possibly ask Jim to do this before he leaves, is we need an asset management spreadsheet of what do we have, what computer devices we have, what printer devices we have. They should all have specific identifying codes and what ownership, what office that they reside in. Because I still don't know that we know where the second computer is that had the security camera on it. So I don't want to get into that, but I'm just saying, I think that we need the township, we should have a responsibility to our taxpayers that we know exactly every piece of equipment that we have in these offices and whose possession they're in, and they should have a tag number. So before we bring more product in, I don't care if it's free or we pay for it or we don't, we should have a system in place that is tracking all of the assets that the township owns.
Okay, it needs to be updated, but we definitely have one in place, that can be updated.
Can we have it at the next meeting?
Sure. Any other discussion?
No, I'll make a motion
We
to
don't- Go
approve
on, sorry.
the contract. I appreciate all the time and work that went into putting this second request together. So-
As presented.
As presented in the board package.
Yeah, with the list of ARPA items requested.
Do I have to say them all?
Hmm.
With the list of ARPA items requested.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, trustee Robinson and trustee Page, and we're in discussion now. Just a reminder that the county did approve the expenses for the last ARPA grant. The next board meeting would come with, if we were to get these approved, would come with purchase request at the next board meeting. So that's where that timing would be.
That
Any-
is great. I apologize. I'll wait.
Clerk Follett?
I think I had asked prior, could we get a spreadsheet of which grants that you're going for and what you're requesting? So we could kind of, we can look at that and monitor it and check them off as they go. These seem to be a little bit thrown at us, and there could be confusion of which grant, if it's a past grant or a future grant, or which grant it is with the ARPA or for the state. If you wouldn't mind having a spreadsheet with these, so we could follow along, that would be so helpful for everyone. Thanks.
And just as an update, we're finished the last ARPA grant. So this is the only ARPA grant that we would be dealing with. There is two expenditures from the state, so 3 total. Those 2 expenditures from the state we had discussed as having them be with the windows. So there's just this one that you see, and then the windows from the state, the 50,000 and the 60,000 that was in their appropriations bill. I just reached out to a bunch of state reps and the state today, so you can get that spreadsheet, but it's really just 2 entities right now with 3 total different grants. And I have yet to apply to this one. So this is the one that I'm applying to. And again, there's the 2 from the state. Trustee Geist.
I love that we're applying for so many grants. Are we still working toward getting the training for staff so that they can help apply for grants as well? That's the first question. And the second question, I like to echo it with Clerk Paul, it's suggested. It doesn't matter to me whether it's 1 grant or 3 grants or 5 grants. If there was a repository, like a one place where we could at a glance, look at what we've applied to, what is pending, what has been accepted, and what the intentions are, then we don't have to ask so many questions, because we always have this sort of running grant spreadsheet that maybe we can put in the Google Drive.
Sure, it's super streamlined and basic, but we can do that, yes. And in the past, we did approve somebody to get training for their grant research. And it was, I believe, done. So that has been done.
So they're
And-
applying for these grants too, or is it just are they helping you, or? It's a lot of work.
So yes, I do all of the work for that because right now I'm the only one that is here to do that work. So yes, it's all on me to get these tens of thousands of dollars, which I have done. Okay, any other discussion in a roll call vote?
Yeah.
Trustee
Perfect.
Robbins,
Yes.
Trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Geist,
Yes.
supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Thank you. Discussion and possible action on electrical work to allow for the freezers and refrigerators, and this is, the bids, how they were done was just for the freezer, the one freezer that we have already received, or that we've already purchased through the grant.
So we have three proposals in front of us.
Right,
So it looks like
There-
Gator Chef was $14.95. If I added this right, then Bobo is 13.25. And then Mr. Handyman is $4.12. Do I have?
correct.
So I know Mr. Handyman bills at like 178 an hour, so if he doesn't complete this in that time, then this is just an estimate. And he's quite expensive, I know, because I've called him. Great, I know he's got a great reputation, but it's 412 is very different than 1395.
Extremely different, yeah.
What happened, and I was there for most of them, they had different methods of trying to get to the solution. So they had different ideas of how to get to what they were trying to do.
Mhm. And Mr. Handyman is more like, kind of like a jack of all trades, right? So he's a handyman, but not specifically in the experience with commercial grade electrical systems. Is
Gator-
that fair to say?
It seems, it does appear that way, and I would say that Gator Chef is the most
Right,
focused on getting refrigerators and freezers in.
yeah, it's a local Lisle business within our township. I think is important when we can. That's why I recommended we call them a couple months ago, so I'm glad you guys did.
They're all local. Does anybody want to make any motions?
Handyman is located in Geneva, so that's not local. Unless I'm reading it wrong, I apologize if you.
So just so I'm tracking apples to apples, this will address the current that we've ordered plus the new ones that we're ordering?
Not the new ones.
Neither, none of these proposals.
None of them are doing the new ones. The only, because we haven't received that grant, so we want to make sure that this one is just for the one freezer that we have ordered.
Well, my preference is to go with the people that sold us the refrigerator.
I'm actually, I'm
But
thinking the same
the
thing, it's a
unit.
little bit higher, but
Not
they
much.
know their product.
Right.
And if they damage it, it's covered.
Exactly,
That's what I'm worried about.
exactly.
So would you like to make a motion, trustee
Well-
Robinson?
Are we done discussing?
Usually you start with the motions, but we might as well go with discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the electrical proposal from Gator Chef to install the circuitry that we need for the refrigeration, the cooler that we've already purchased.
Thank you.
I'll
And
second it, and it actually says for two
That's what.
freezers, right? So it's not just one, so that's for two. I'll
Oh,
second. it.
there you go.
well, it's, the issue is it's that one, it would allow for two. So it's
Yeah.
one unit,
Yep.
but each of them has to have their own separate routing, and that's the code issue, and so that's why,
But the cost is rolled into both.
exactly.
I think that's great.
Okay, so could we, any other discussion? And a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Geist,
Yes.
supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Okay, 19, discussion and possible action to purchase a computer hardware cabinet.
I know we were only provided with the detail of the estimate today. But I am pleased that this is a proactive attempt to get in front of one of the issues that I think is going to be flagged in our audit that we know about. So,
Which is,
sorry,
what's the issue with the audit?
that the way the computer, the way that,
Exposed.
yeah, but if you look at it, it's just, yeah. So I would make a motion that we approve the purchase of the hardware cabinet as quoted. And based on the recommendation of the interim township administrator, estimated cost around $3,300 for the equipment and labor. This will be a cabinet that will be secure, that will have all of our equipment here, mainly the routing equipment that all of the computers connect into, plus connect up to the public internet, will be in a secure location. And that's something that we have to do. So I'll make that motion to approve this proposal from our IT support team.
I have a question about the lock. Is it a combo or is it key?
It's a key.
How many keys?
Well, we usually get at least two, so I don't know for sure, but I can, what number would we prefer? 2 or 3 or?
So there should probably always be one secure at the front desk,
Yeah.
so that if someone's not here, would have their AP support could get in, we could let them in, right?
It would probably be the township administrator.
But
would
there's
be-
always someone at the front desk and there's not always someone in the township administrator office. That's what I think about.
Okay, but from a security perspective, I mean, we may talk with the auditors as to where they believe the key needs to go, but right now we're just trying to approve of the purchase of the hardware. So the keys is a different situation. So do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And then now we're at discussion. Any other discussion?
Well, I just want to follow up on what trustee McGovern asked for. So can we ask for a certain number of keys as part of this? Is that what you?
Yeah, I'm just concerned with, 2 keys, I don't know.
Three.
Yeah.
Should be Supervisor, front desk.
Or
and then-
combo.
Yes,
Okay.
supervisor, front desk, yes. I think
And
that
then-
makes sense.
Administrator? Okay, can we make sure that,
I'll let the administrator know that that's the wishes of the board.
So we agreed supervisor, township administrator and front desk. I'll
So-
write that down.
I mean, frankly, right now, we've never given the front desk access to all the keys.
Well, right now
in
you don't
the-
have any protection, just like, so I think this is a step in the right direction, right?
So right now, what has happened is the same that's happened in previous administrations, is that nothing has been, it's not a new move. What has happened is that technology has changed and security methods have changed. So it's not that we don't have any protection. It was always behind a stored place where apparently previous administrations thought was just fine.
Well, it's
So-
in the food pantry stored openly, so that was.
It's not
definitely a
stored
risk.
openly.
Okay, let's say it's not stored. Storing your network system in a secure cabinet is not new technology. We've been doing that for decades, so I'm glad we're doing it. I think we have a solution. And I think we've all agreed, the board has all requested 3 keys and we've requested where the 3 keys reside. Are we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, that's not a motion that's being on the agenda. So if you all want to have at the next meeting where the keys, that would be just fine, but that's not the motion being called.
sorry, all I said is make sure it has 3 keys.
Okay, we can have 3 keys. And we can discuss at another meeting where those 3 keys reside. Can we have a roll call vote, clerk Folowitz?
Sure. Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes, that's
Yes.
a yes.
thank you. I'm sorry, trustee Geist,
Yes,
supervisor Hewitt,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, we already did 21. Discussion and possible action about working from home.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Uh,
I'd make a-
That's,
Or we should
Well-
move that to executive session. I don't think we should.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we move that down?
yeah, there's on executive session, there's item B. Which could be, but from a policy and perspective of like,
But we have a specific situation to discuss, so I'd make a motion to move that item to executive session.
Attorney Seckler, is that, I mean, part of this is a policy issue, so is that even possible to be put in executive session because it's working from home is the policy or not, isn't it? We're not talking about anybody specific.
I don't know
Well,
that
if
we
we-
have to have a specific policy. It could be a case by case basis, but when we talk about an executive session, I think we can make that determination.
If we're talking about a specific employee, that's what we can talk, that's what the board can talk about in an executive session about the specific employee's performance, compensation, other matters. It can't be a general, the executive session would not be a discussion of like the general township policy.
So right
That's what the
now,
Board wants to.
so right now, I mean, part of the issue is right now, we have not had as a policy, the working at home. It's not anybody in particular. It's that because the public comes to this office, then the issue has been, you know, we need somebody to be there to service them. So meaning like if somebody were to get a passport, that can't be done online. If somebody were to buy trash stickers, that can't be done online. There's a variety of services that we do here and require people to be here to take. So that's part of the issue is that we're a brick and mortar governmental entity.
Well,
So does anybody have any other?
Township employees
Every
are
company has a brick and mortar.
in office employees
And just,
and not eligible unless there's extenuating circumstances to work out.
okay, so that's a first. Is there a second?
Well, we'd have to define extenuating circumstances, which we can do in a personnel meeting, so I'll
Yeah.
second.
Okay, and then
Contingent on the
in
meeting, the personnel meeting.
discussion, one of the pieces to acknowledge is that if you open that door up for one person, then it's going to be open for everyone.
That's why we need to discuss what that looks like in the personnel meeting. I agree.
Okay, so, a roll call vote.
Just so I'm clear, the motion is that all our employees are in-office employees. Except on if there's extenuating circumstances, is that what I heard?
And for discussion purposes, in my mind, I was thinking of a limited time, you know,
Right.
you had,
Illness.
you know, retina issues, that's a limited time, you know, heal and you come back. So more,
Provides a little bit more flexibility.
yeah,
And understanding
only
that,
medical leave. type.
and understanding that from a job, description perspective, that we would have to then have job descriptions that were in alignment with that.
I see
And
what
we
you're
don't
saying.
have
That's
any
risky.
of that.
Nope, she's right.
In
That's risky.
place where anybody, there is not a single
Yeah.
job description that is in alignment with the policy that you're about to try to vote on.
So maybe we just don't
Why
agree to
is it on
having a
the
work from
agenda?
home policy at this time, because she's right, it wouldn't be fair, and then we would be deciding what's extenuating and what's not. And we're a social services agency and you need to be physically here to serve people. So I think we'd have to look at it on a case by case. I think the policy should be no, but we also can look at it on case by case basis based on someone's situation. And the township administrator should be able to help navigate that. They know best.
So do you want to not just, because the township administrator has said that he doesn't believe that we can do this, either with our job descriptions, our current staffing, or the needs that we have of the community. So do you all want to do you want to withdraw that motion or?
Yeah, I would be, willing to withdraw. I think it's assumed that everyone comes into the building to work as it is. Within the wording, right? I don't think there's any wording that could be misconstrued.
Here's the tricky thing. We say we have a no work from home policy and someone's in an extenuating circumstance where we're able to make that accommodation. We want to say no. Or now, do we want everyone to be able to say, well, my situation's extenuating? It's also subjective, right?
Yeah.
Attorney Seckler, what is the best way to word this? That we're being sensitive, but also we're a social service agency and we need people here on site.
So in general, the policy, I believe, is from prior issues, is that everyone here works in person at the township, there are certain legal things that could be done for, reasonable accommodations if needed. But that also, I would first recommend, making sure everyone's job description is up to date and, with whatever the personnel committee and supervisor and the administrator can all help work to. Because it has to be in line with their job description. It can't be a burden on the township or the essential functions of that person's job. Obviously, for example, that.
I think that's worded well,
Yeah,
what you just said.
your essential, right, well, I mean, and that's case law, so,
Yeah.
so there are certain jobs that may be able to temporarily, or maybe one day, having, whenever needed, or so, I don't, that would be up to the board. But other jobs, clearly you couldn't, do remotely, that's just the nature of the services.
Right.
So my recommendation would be more to revisit this at a later time. And first focus on really honing those job descriptions and making sure those are really airtight and updated, that they reflect what the township needs and wants. And then from there, enacting a policy and ensuring that the employee manual confirms that everyone works in person and what a reasonable accommodation looks like and what that process looks like.
Thank you. Thank you,
So
Fran.
I would like to
So-
call my previous motion
Thank you.
and revisit this at a later time.
I was wondering we should postpone this.
Postpone.
I feel like we haven't even had a time to discuss it.
Yeah, I
Right.
didn't, when I first saw it, I was surprised.
I don't know why it's on the agenda without us even having any time to discuss it.
I put it
feel
on
like
the
this is-
agenda,
Um,
but I thought it was gonna come up in executive session.
yeah.
Yeah.
So can we postpone?
Yes,
Yeah.
and so,
You even need a motion for that. I mean, based off of what Attorney Suckler's saying and what the policy is at this point, it sounds like it's reflecting what you have been discussing. So do you even need to postpone it? Maybe you just leave it be till you're ready to come back to it at some other point. Without, a-
so now that you're rescinding the motion, isn't that proper?
we
Attorney
never
Suck-
got a second. We never got a second.
Yeah.
I thought I heard a second.
I think I did.
Okay, so we had a first, we had a second, now we're rescinding it, and trustee Page, are you rescinding?
Yes.
Okay, great, it's being postponed to another meeting. Okay, then 21.
That is 21.
So there's misnumbering.
22, sorry,
21B, whatever,
that was a new addition,
yeah, and the addition.
not sure.
Oh, okay.
Or there was, I think, 2 trustees that may have added it, so. I didn't have any documentation or anything like that.
Do you have anything to say?
This is actually not a part of township business. And so, and again, I'm not resigning. So this is not, you all don't have any right to bring, frankly, any actions on this.
There's no apology, there's no, something. That's.
Well, I
Sure.
think the challenge here, first and foremost, I want to speak to this because there's no, everyone in this room has a heart and cares for people. That's why we're here. Nobody would have sat through 58 meetings last year for a power move. It's because we care about people and we want to do the right thing by people. And so there's no intention to embarrass or humiliate or demean anyone with this resolution. I'm sorry for those of you who weren't privy to the videos or weren't privy to the court sessions that we attended. But Supervisor Hewitt, you came into office to serve people, and I believed in what you believed. I did. And I supported you 1000%. As this case came to light last November, and I didn't know the details at that point, I just knew it happened, and it can happen to anyone. It could have happened to anyone. But it didn't. And while we would like to believe that this was personal business, it wasn't, because it was a township meeting. It was a meeting of township officials. and you were representing Lisle Township at that meeting. As well, it was accused of the people who you were at the meeting with that someone slipped something to you. So that, to me, if I was the host of that meeting or I attended that meeting, I would be incredibly offended. But the bottom line is, we entered a vote of no confidence last September because of all the things that had happened to that place. All of the excessive spending that had happened, things that really impacted services, impacted our ability to keep staff, the accounting and legal fees that we spent. And if people sitting here haven't taken a look at that, I always tell you, we've talked about it at nauseam, okay? And that wasn't because of anything we did. That's because of the situation that kept being created. You know, the investigations with staff, in complaints, all of that's not the board. That's not the board. And we've asked you to do better. We've asked you to improve. We've asked you to take the steps to be better. And you just, in audaciousness, don't believe that you need to do anything differently. And so, yes, we have another vote of no confidence. Well, I would say I'm gonna read the vote of no confidence, and this board can choose to decide if this is something they value or they don't. I'm not judging anyone for the choice they make. Everyone is entitled to make their choice. But my son, and I've watched my son and his peers mourn a 21-year-old peer that they've been in school with since preschool because she was hit by a drunk driver. And they were able to hold their head up when they got out of the car. A resolution. Whereas Lisle Township is an Illinois local government created and existing under the Illinois Township Code 60 ILCS 1/1.
Okay, your time is up.
I'd like to ask the board to extend my time to complete reading the resolution. Can I get a second?
I can't believe the agenda item states that the resolution is being presented, so I would like to go through the resolution.
So we could have a roll call vote on that.
Well, how do we discuss it without the resolution?
Well, I think what should happen, you have to make a motion to do something. So if you're making a motion
Fair.
to,
I apologize. Okay, that was out of turn. I'd like to make a motion to read the resolution, and then we can see if the board would like to go.
So we have a first,
Second.
second, and a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, is the motion just to read it or to pass it?
To read it, we haven't heard it.
Because nobody's seen it.
Okay, so I apologize. So, trustee Geist,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee Robinson,
Oh,
supervisor Hewitt.
No.
I'd like to preface before reading this in saying that sometimes being a leader requires you to be unpopular, unlikable. It's I didn't enter office to be liked or to win friends. I am consistently treated uniquely. I think you should probably think about that. Whereas the Lisle Township trustees are committed to serving the township residents with the highest level of integrity, honesty, and ethics. And whereas the Lisle Township trustees are steadfast in their commitment for township operations to be run in the most efficient and effective manner. And whereas all elected officials took an oath of office as required by the Illinois Constitution prior to embarking upon their official duties. And whereas Lisle Township officials should never engage in personal actions which bring disrepute upon the township or their official functions with duties. And whereas the Lisle Township trustees are committed to full transparency to Lisle Township residents, each other, and other governmental agencies. And whereas the Lisle Township trustees, clerk, assessor, and highway commissioner have observed Township Supervisor Diane Hewitt take repeated actions that are not in the best interest of the township and its residents, and which have otherwise portrayed a negative image of Lisle Township to the public. And whereas the Township Board has previously passed a vote of no confidence in Supervisor Diane Hewitt for various reasons specified in resolution number 2023-27, which is herein incorporated, and whereas the Supervisor Diane Hewitt was arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol on November 1st, 2023, immediately after attending a government function on behalf of Lisle Township. And whereas Supervisor Hewitt was arrested by Warrenville Police, who questioned her about several matters when they stopped her, and whereas Supervisor Hewitt did not answer questions about her about her front tire blown out, how vomit got all over her car or door, or about how an empty bottle of wine got in her purse. And whereas Supervisor Hewitt failed 2 field sobriety tests, and whereas the police made a video recording of Supervisor Hewitt during the stop, which shows that Hewitt was unable to follow simple instructions or keep her balance, requiring the police to intervene multiple times. And whereas the police declined to administer additional field sobriety tests, apparently out of concern that Supervisor Hewitt would hurt herself. And whereas at the time of the stop, Supervisor Hewitt attempted unsuccessfully to zip up her coat and continued to try to do so unsuccessfully, even after being advised by the police that her coat was on backwards. And whereas during the stop, Supervisor Hewitt was offered to take a breathalyzer test, but was unable to understand and follow the directions. And whereas Supervisor Hewitt was placed in the police car, she was uncontrollable and had to be removed from the police car. And whereas upon returning to the police car, Supervisor Hewitt began uttering numbers, letters, and incoherent sentences. And whereas Supervisor Hewitt was flailing in the police car, threw up in the back of the police car and needed assistance to exit the police car. And whereas Supervisor Hewitt tried and was unable to make a telephone call from her cell phone. And whereas while at the Warrenville Police Station, Supervisor Hewitt thought she was at the Lisle Police Station. Supervisor Hewitt's actions on the video.
Your time is up.
Was impaired.
Back to you guys. Your time is up.
This is not a time.
The motion was to read the resolution, not a time.
Actually, so in the board
Whereas
rules,
Supervisor
everybody
Hewitt
gets
failed a
3
first
minutes
drug
to
test
do
during the term
something.
of the bond.
So you're
that she was
violating the
under after
rules,
the-
trustee Guy.
After the arrest, whereas Supervisor Hewitt failed a second drug test during the term of the bond, and where Supervisor Hewitt was convicted of the charges for driving under the influence, and whereas the office of the state's attorney of DuPage County argued that Supervisor Hewitt should be sentenced to 30 days of jail time, and whereas the judge sentenced Supervisor Hewitt to 2 years of probation, during which time he was not tested positive for drugs or alcohol. And whereas the judge further ordered that if Supervisor
So
Hewitt
guys,
tested
you're out of
drugs
time.
or alcohol during her probation period, Supervisor Hewitt will go directly to jail for 30 days. Would you like to continue reading?
Okay, go for something that they don't have.
Yeah,
Ask
read
for
it.
it to be
Trustee
read.
guys,
Ask
you're out of
It's
time.
been read, but just if it's a resolution, it should be in writing and
Yeah.
present. I mean, I just don't know what the board's.
I'm almost done.
Desire.
Can I finish the reading? Because we did agree to let me read it. The board agreed to let me read it. Other
So,
than trustee.
Again, the
Robinson,
conduct
who
of the
doesn't believe that this
members
is important.
says that you can only have 3 minutes per time.
Would
So
you-
you've,
Actually, the rules were suspended earlier session. But they were, and we couldn't hear some of that too because you were talking.
vote.
Supervisor Hewitt, you having to serve a 30-day jail sentence is going to impede your ability to effectively lead this office. I'm going to ask you again for your resignation.
And a roll call vote. Does anybody want to start with the making a motion to agree to this? Your next
30 days.
resolution to have a vote of no
I'll send
confidence.
it to you.
Yes, due to a probability of job abandonment, I am issuing another vote of no confidence.
Okay. And we have a second and a roll call vote, please, Clerk Polowitz.
Trustee Geist,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Page,
No.
trustee Robinson,
No.
Supervisor Hewitt.
Okay, the
You said
motion,
no?
the
said no?
motion fails.
Decisions to be-
Next, we have reports of elected officials. Highway Commissioner Young.
Yeah, I should have brought this up in the grants. You sent an email to elected officials concerning some of the grants. I think one of those grants may have pertained to my skin on my my old building. So if you could share that email with the trustees and we could talk about it further tomorrow, the next.
I'll look for that email.
I can get a copy if you can. You said, so. Our staff participated in flagger training on April 17th. We opened bids on April 18th and the prices were about what we expected here. The car care clinic is going to be this Saturday again from 9 to noon, 8 to noon. And we have a chainsaw safety class coming up on May 20th.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have one,
no,
of those. We're gonna
safety
use it.
And that's all.
Trustee Geis.
Really excited, the Cross Your Heart program that I used to run through my brick and mortar, which is a program that is in partnership with Sharing Connections. Leanne McGrath sews these darling bags out of recycled upholstery material. And then, the people in the community have been so generous and they fill them with trial size emergency items, notepad, pen, and then the little yellow book that has all the resources in it. I'm really excited to say that now I will be, Michelle has them in her office now and she can give them to the community as they come in crisis. So now we have another home to be sending these bags to that are gonna have a direct impact on our Lisle Township. So I'm very excited about that.
Trustee McGovern.
Nothing to report.
Trustee Page.
Two things, garden work day, if anybody is interested, 10 o'clock in the morning here at the complex, at the garden back by the salt shed. We are cleaning up the garden, hooking up hoses, bringing out tomato cages, compost and garden soil mix is gonna be delivered, so it's a physical day. If anybody's interested, we'd love that. And then coffee with the candidates, I'm sorry, coffee with the trustees this month will be Thursday. It's not a Monday. We've got a couple of other things
You
going
still
on.
are backed up from the last one. though.
We are, I know, and then Monday is the day after Mother's Day. I got things going, he's got things going, so
So
we're
we're
gonna,
still backed up from the last month though,
Yeah.
so that wouldn't happen on a Thursday, we still need to do ours and we're gonna do
Well,
it on a Saturday.
we can, so pick a Saturday when we're around, but we're gonna we've got this one set up for Thursday, May 16th, 9 o'clock in the morning at Sweet Spot Bakery in Lisle.
Trustee Robinson.
Yeah, I would just want to talk, the township, we put a plan together at the end of the year, an operations plan. It was organized, it was recommended by legal counsel. And it was primarily focused on reducing budgets for administrative and legal services. Last year, as it's been pointed out, there were very high legal services and administrative services. Part of that was dealing with historical issues that had come up. Some of those were not the responsibility of the supervisor. So we put a plan in place. That's where we brought in a interim township administrator. Now we said that now we need a full-time township administrator. And that's where we brought in Lauterbach and Alman to do the financial books and to work with our audits as well. The other piece of this was, and this came, our legal counsel, both sides of legal counsel said your board needs help. Your board needs these professionals to come in who have experience in township, and you also need to get board training. We talked about this at the end of the year. It's not scheduled. I am going to bring it up again in the next meeting. We need board training. We need to be more effective as a board so that we aren't going to lose good people who join the township. I will reiterate what the trustee Page said, that we were planning to have a lunch next week or a coffee meeting next week. The other thing I'll mention is that there was a TOI, Township Administrators or Officials of Illinois webinar that we listened to that talked about the issue about these bus loads of people even brought up to the Chicago area. Basically, they're all aside, they've been granted applications for asylum. Am I saying that correct?
They're pending cases.
Pending cases for asylum. And that there is talked about what all the different municipalities, what all the townships are doing to address this. So it was very informative, very instructive, and it was a great session. So thanks. That's all I want to share.
Clerk Folowitz.
Yes, Supervisor Hewitt, thank you so much for agreeing to get me the printer scanner copier, the color one that we will need. So I really appreciate that. I also wanted to, I want to make sure that you are informing the board of maybe what your plans are here. It seems like you will be taking some significant time away from the offices and from duties that you say that you're doing. And I think it would be important for the board to know what your plan is for when you are away and for when you are, following the court order. So, our focus is is the community. And we need to make sure that the community knows that we're doing all we can to run the township in the best, most efficient, most effective way. You were elected as supervisor to fill a role. And if there's any question with that, I think we should be getting together to figure out how are we going to be taking care of the residents and of the day-to-day operations. I know now we're getting a new full-time township administrator. It was never really the intent for that any administrator to take over your roles. The intent of the administrator was to be a part-time to actually try to get straight what was happening within the township. It wasn't supposed to be there for help. It was to be there to straighten out what was going wrong in the township. I'm afraid with you being away or possibly being away, real high probability of what we can see that you're going to be away and have to be focusing on other things, that we may need to regroup and figure out how are we taking care of our community. That's really all I need to say. Thank you.
So as I mentioned earlier, I have ADHD and PTSD, which has 2 prescriptions that I very much publicly shared at my court session. And so again, because I have a prescription care, I am not going to go to jail. That is not even a reasonable perception. And so again, I understand that you all would like to throw me in jail, but that isn't what's happening. Thank you. This is really amazing, the amount of public abuse that you all incessantly do, incessantly. It really is
You're
incessant.
gone for 30
And
days.
it also, yes.
We have things to take care of. and we
Exactly,
need to
but I
prepare.
haven't been gone for any amount of time.
Did you not
I-
fail some tests?
Again, I have a
It's all public
prescription.
record.
It is,
Did
and
you
it's
test
public
positive for
record.
marijuana?
Again, it's
Okay.
public record. This is my time, sir and ma'am. I have a prescription. Okay, yes, I have a prescription.
Medical marijuana. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I
That-
have
for
a
ADHD?
prescription. Thank you.
That's
So
not
I
a
understand that you
prescription for
don't
ADHD.
understand mental health issues or anything like that, but I do have a prescription. Thank you.
Anyone can get a prescription
No,
for
that's
medical.
not true.
Thank you. Okay, that is the end of my,
Might have been an issue. I wish. you
that
would get
is
some
the
help.
end of my
You
report.
need help.
Next, we're going on to the next agenda item, which is old business. Does anybody have any old business?
I have old business. We had a shred event, was it 2 weeks ago? How many weeks ago was it? I'm sorry, time is, okay. So 2 weeks ago, we had a shred event with no shred truck, so we accepted documents from our constituents, our community. Personal, financial, I don't know what kind of documents people were shredding. But we accepted them with no way to shred them, and then we stored them in an open public room. Where there are volunteers and also community service required volunteers with access to those boxes. I want to know what we've done to mitigate the risk to our constituents who trusted us to accept those documents, but we did not shred them in a timely manner. And how are we, that's the first question, how are we mitigating that risk? And because if anyone's identity is impacted from those, that's in here, what's our culpability? I don't know. So Attorney Seckler, do we have any responsibility because we assumed the possession of those documents and we were left with the understanding that we would be shredding them and we did not?
And everything was under lock and key. The keys were pulled out of the
pantry is-
food pantry so that people in the food pantry and any of the volunteers could not get them. There are cameras going to that area, so anybody would be seen if this was an issue. There was never a time when a volunteer was unattended
Okay,
that
thank
was
you for-
at that event.
Thank you for
And
clarifying.
we've also spoken to our insurance agent and people, and they said that the risk was incredibly low because of the way that we handled
Okay,
it.
People
thank
were
you.
very
And
shocked.
everything has been shredded.
I have
So you
received a
seem to
number of
have
messages from
missed that
people.
also, that point, that
Okay,
it
but
was
just so
not
you know,
advertised
We had to
as
speak to
shredding
the-
it at that
Okay.
day.
But just so you know, we had to answer to people who asked us about it. And I didn't know that, I didn't realize their documents were being held. And so they're like, you literally took people's documents and didn't shred them? I'm like, I did not, I was not there. So
The
you have,
day
in
of the
fairness,
time,
in
we
fairness-
explained it to people of what was
Okay,
happening.
but
We
in-
also explained that, for example,
In
the
fairness,
purchasing
we always-
policy that you all have put into place
In
makes it
fairness-
very difficult for us to the next day actually hire
Supervisor
somebody
Hewitt-
that doesn't have your board approval and get those
Supervisor
bills
Hewitt,
paid
the
for.
Village of Lisle
that's
is
the
holding a
case.
shred event and asked again why we did not work in cooperation with them to share that expense. So I think we're still not working with other agencies to be more effective with our dollars, with our spend, with our resources, with our time. I think we can learn from this. I think we have to do better. But I had asked Attorney Seckler, is there any issue we have to worry about?
No, I wouldn't, and we can talk individually or offline, but my fear in terms of the township, when the township didn't do, it isn't liable for anything,
Okay,
but we want to make sure knowing everything before before speaking too much about, thoughts or accusations about it, because the last thing I want is and I'm not saying you are, now, don't get me wrong. It's
Yeah,
more, my
okay.
fear is having someone listen and say, well, my data was breached in a different thing, and they're,
They
right.
already know. I have
That's-
received multiple messages. Did you
my-
receive messages? Trustee Page,
So
trustee
my-
McGovern?
Yeah. I hope that never
My
happens again.
plan, excuse me, my plan, my thought and my advice is all about minimizing any potential risk or any potential liability or any potential even unfounded litigation or claims brought against the township.
That's fair.
All.
That's fair. I understand what you're
But on
saying.
my understanding is, and based on everything reviewed, is there is no exposure for the township, no legitimate exposure.
It's a point asking. Thank you. So that's the only old business I had was to follow up on what happened with the shred event.
And the village and the park district and ourselves all try to pick different days, and that's what we did. We picked different days and we worked together to make sure that that happened.
Within weeks of each other, within 3 weeks of each other.
There was plenty of other shred events that were happening to make sure that people had a choice and could get their things
But
shredded.
when we're talking about a spend and when we're watching the spend, if the Village of Lisle was having a shred event, as the township, we should have worked together. It's called collaborating. We should have worked together and combined our resources and shared the expense. We talked about it last year, and yet it happened again where we did our own thing. It doesn't make sense.
There's always a number of entities that do this on different days. That's what is
Two
called
buildings are a
making
mile,
sure
from,
that.
like 2 miles apart from one another. We should work together. We talked about this last year. So if there was an issue about spend, if there was a budget constraint, we should have worked with the Village of Lisle or any other entity. Could have been the park district. I don't care. Let's work together. Why does everybody have to operate in a silo? Why can't we work together? I don't understand that.
Thank you, trustee Geist, but we were working together to make sure that we gave people choices and when they got their documents shredded.
So
Okay, any other-
362 days of the year? Those are all within 3 weeks of each other is what my point is. Like if you did it, like if the village did it 1 quarter and the township did it in 1 quarter and the park district did it 1 quarter, that to me makes sense.
Thank you, trustee Geist. And what happens is that it's tax time and people tend to do that. Any other thoughts or any other old business, trustee Geist?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Trustee McGovern? Or sorry, did anybody else have any old business? New business? The consent agenda. The one thing I'd like to point out is in the minutes, we had a number of people show up on the 13th. And I'd really like to get their email addresses because a number of them gave their email addresses to the clerk, and we do intend to do a email shortly. So if we could get those email addresses, that would be wonderful. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the March 13th Lisle Township meeting, the March 25th public budget hearing, the March 25th special township meeting, the April 10th Lisle Township meeting, and the April 19th special Lisle Township meeting.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Page and trustee McGovern. Any other discussion? And a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Page,
Yes.
trustee McGovern,
Yes.
trustee Geist,
Yes.
trustee Robinson,
Yes.
supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. Great. Would somebody like to make a motion to
Make a
go?
motion to go into executive session.
Second,
Sorry, forget to say what it says here.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for section 2 pending or probable or imminent litigation against, affecting, or on behalf of the township. And B, section 2C1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees.
I'll second.
And a roll call vote, please.
I had a first from trustee Geist and a second from trustee McGovern.
Trustee Page.
Trustee Page, thank you. Okay, trustee Geist?
Yes.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes, and we can take a break because probably some people need to use the restroom.